Hello and welcome to another morning programming day, Wednesday, the 18th of November 2020, live on NTN. We'd like to thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching on air, online, St. Lucians in the diaspora, residents right here in St. Lucia, we'd like to welcome you. Thank you for tuning in and making this your morning station to ensure you get the latest developments from the government of St. Lucia. My name is Jessie Leonce, and I will be bringing you these details. We're looking at the 24-hour news cycle in terms of these latest developments. We lead, as usual, with the COVID-19 news. We have an update, another set of cases being recorded. We got an update from the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belmont-George. On that, we'll be hearing from her. We're now up to 178 cases registered here in St. Lucia, and fortunately we had, if you remember, we reported a case that was critical at the respiratory hospital, but the Chief Medical Officer is now reporting that that patient has recovered. So we'll have the details to that in just a moment. Also, the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports joins forces to assist young single mothers. Quite commendable. We'll get the details to that in just a moment. And St. Lucia continues to experience heavy rains from the passage of tropical waves. We know many persons are experiencing and are being affected. We've had reports of flooding over the last fortnight, I believe, flooding and also some land slippage in certain areas of the island. We encourage you to be vigilant, to look out, see the signs. You know, there's a lot of rain. If you know that you're living in an area that is prone to flooding, try your best to prepare as much as possible for that eventuality. We know all of the precautions and the guidelines that are put out every year during the Atlantic hurricane season. Now is the time to implement them. Make sure your documents, your important documents, are put away safely in a Ziploc bag and plastic bag. Make sure you have a plan in place for your family should disaster fall upon you. And we're looking at dengue as well. Dengue continues to be the bane of our existence right now. We've had many persons, a last count made by the Ministry of Health was 888 persons contracting the dengue virus this year. And unfortunately, we've had fatalities this year as well. We're dealing with COVID-19. COVID-19 has been, something that we've had a watch on COVID-19 since March, essentially. And I think by now, the population, the world is aware of the infection prevention measures that are so essential right now in terms of limiting the spread of COVID-19. And we've seen clusters of cases. St. Lucia's status COVID-19 wise was updated to clusters of cases, and it is concerning, and the effort right now on the part of the authorities is to reduce this risk of transmission. Concern about the measures that were instituted in October it was not working, and we saw a revision. The protocols were amended. We had consultation on Friday with the National Emergency Management Council. They did meet, committee meeting, apologies. They did meet, and following that, we had an update to the nation by the Prime Minister, the Chief Medical Officer, the chair of that NEMAC meeting, as well as the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Milton Daisy, speaking on the amended protocols and why it had to be instituted. Essentially, the protocols have been tightened because while commendations came to the business sector, commercial entities, retail entities for their compliance and their adherence to the protocols in ensuring that their employees, their staff, as well as patrons were complying while on premises, there was this concern that in terms of social activities, persons were not complying. And the CMO did indicate that, social spaces, bars and what have you, were high-risk areas, high risk for transmission of COVID-19. And we saw that the amendments to the protocols were in an effort to reduce social activities, unnecessary activities at this time. Because at this point in time, we came from a point where we had no fatalities of COVID-19. We came from a point where we had double digits cases only and in the low double-digit cases, to a point now where we are dealing with, we're in the 100 plus number of cases here on island, and at this point in time in terms of the registered number of cases of COVID-19, and we're seeing these cases emerging from various communities, and right now the effort is to reduce that. I'm going to talk about some of the protocols when we come lower on in the program, after we go over the latest developments, the news from the government of St. Lucia. And I do hope that you listen if you're not yet aware of these protocols. They are very important in terms of reducing the risk of transmission within our population. And this is not just for residents of St. Lucia. It also applies to persons who are here on business, persons who are visiting St. Lucia for leisure, who are here to have a good time. We need to all be cognizant of these amended protocols in order for us to reduce the risk of transmission here in St. Lucia. Do stay tuned. We have the news directly after this break.
St. Lucia ka registre vermin corona ek I ka fait mouvement ek an chay vitesse tan chaque canef ka kouye pour diligence publique la fait wolo parler en place publique qu'on bon en met base ti boutique changer distance sociale 6 pieds rodion à l'autre I ka travail tan si ou senti ko pas cordial quarantine ko pas en contact et puis l'autre en cas où tu es exposé. C'est un écouillé, free 11 ou ben n'importe clinique qui est pour les pays à 10 000 à clé, ça veut dire les supermarkets, pharmacies et puis ATM, yo accessible avant c'était souhait. Pays à clé en plein, ça veut dire tout bagaille fermé à 24 heures. Servi protocole comme sorti par bureau indication santé. Nous tout ensemble, ça sauver vermine corona. Si nous tous servi Jidla à toutes les.
Together let us win this war. St. Lucia be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
She's been watching, waiting, wondering when the sands of time will give way to a tide of change, and for yesterday and today to become a new tomorrow. For a time when her sun can kiss the cheeks of your loved one, and her stars can twinkle in her honeymoon skies. When her earthly embrace will reassure and calm your soul. And her unique view can change your whole perspective. Proudly, she has risen to meet new challenges and to provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores. For her hopes and dreams still stand, shoulder to shoulder, a precious reminder of experiences yet to come. So, wherever your moments and memories take you, let her sense of adventure set you free. She is St. Lucia. Let her inspire you.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, a special good morning to you. I could see on our live that persons internationally are joining the live this morning. If you're watching on air online, our YouTube, Facebook, our Facebook page, you can join in there if you're on the go this morning. If you're at home, you're working from home, you're at school from home today, we do hope that it is a productive day for you, and we thank you for making us your morning station, getting the latest updates from the government of St. Lucia. St. Lucia records cases 174 to 178 of COVID-19. That is the word from the Chief Medical Officer for Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. That was yesterday. And she did indicate that the reported critical COVID-19 patient has recovered and has been transferred as of Monday, 16th November 2020 to the O.M. King EU Hospital for continued care. And in terms of these new cases, we're seeing as young as 1 year old, a 1-year-old male from the Vieux-Fort district contracting COVID-19. I now go to the CMO, Dr. Sharon Belmont-George, with this latest update, as well as a continued advisory amidst the pandemic.
Today, Monday, November 16th, 2020, the Ministry of Health and Wellness received confirmation of 2 new cases of COVID-19. This brings the total number of cases diagnosed in country to date to 173. Case number 172 is a 7-year-old male from the Vieux-Fort district. Case number 173 is a 65-year-old male from the Vieux-Fort district. Both of these individuals, after being assessed and tested for COVID-19, were placed in quarantine by the health practitioners while awaiting receipt of their test results. One of these cases was identified through the contact tracing process, and an epidemiological link has been established for this case. Case number 173 is linked to case number 155. As per protocol, arrangements have been made to place these individuals into care. The new total number of active cases currently in country is now 112. At present, one of the active cases remains in critical care at the respiratory hospital, and all of the other active cases are stable. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has noted that over the past 3 weeks, a number of individuals in care have recovered and been discharged from care. It is important that families, communities, workplaces, and the wider society help in creating a supportive environment which will reduce the fear or concerns of individuals who are returning to their daily routines after recovery. An individual who has been diagnosed with COVID-19 needs the comfort of familiar faces and places to help in their reintegration, as this helps with their emotional and mental well-being. 3 of these cases were identified through the contact tracing process, and an epidemiological link has been established for these 3 cases. Case number 174 is linked to cases 109 and 165. Case number 175 is linked to cases 109 and 163. Case number 176 is linked to case number 169. As a protocol, the arrangements have been made to place these individuals into care. The Ministry of Health and Wellness, we once again remind everyone that we are all susceptible to the virus. However, there are persons who are at greater risk, such as the elderly and those living with chronic and underlying medical conditions. Therefore, we all have to play our part to protect the health and safety of our families, our friends, our colleagues, and our neighbors. Let us all continue to take personal responsibility and adhere to the protocols and guidelines for the prevention of the virus. Let us continue to practice the infection prevention and control guidelines that will help to reduce exposure to the virus. Wash and sanitize your hands often during the day. Ensure a face mask is used whenever you're out in public, and ensure that it covers your mouth and your nose. Sanitize frequently touched surfaces, often using a bleach solution. Maintain the separation of 6 feet from others, which is about 2 arms lengths apart. And if you are experiencing flu-like symptoms, keep away from others and seek medical care immediately at the closest respiratory clinic. Also, avoid contact with other persons who have flu-like symptoms.
That was the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belmont-George. We apologize there. The earlier clip of the CMO was previously expired, a previous statement being made by her, but we just covered it up there with the latest statement, the latest clip from her. Case number 174 is a 1-year-old male from the Vieux-Fort district. Case number 175 is a 13-year-old male from the Choiseul district. Case number 176 is a 31-year-old female from the Gros Islet district. Case number 177 is a 54-year-old male from the Castries district, and case number 178 is a 44-year-old male from the Grosse Lake district. All these individuals, after being assessed and tested for COVID-19, were placed in quarantine for care by health practitioners. Dr. Sharon Belmar-George, they're speaking on these latest cases and indicating that there are epidemiological links being made with these new cases to prior patients. So please take note of that. And we've also seen, I believe the last word we got on in terms of recoveries were 13 recoveries from Thursday to Sunday, and these individuals have been released from care and reintegrated into their communities. And you may know somebody who has recovered from COVID-19, and certainly the assurance is that the health authorities, health officials would not release these individuals if they posed any danger to your community. And so we hope that you could welcome them with open arms, thankful that they have recovered. We know that many persons the world over have not been so fortunate, and families are now grieving. So to have persons come back and recovered from COVID-19 is a thing to celebrate, especially on the heels of the holiday season. Going back to the press conference, the update to the nation on Friday, we did have the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Milton Daisy, speaking on, well, I believe it was the Prime Minister who made that disclosure on Friday, speaking on the effort by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force to recruit wardens for communities island-wide to ensure that the amended protocols were being adhered to. So essentially enforcement in these communities. And we have a report from Herma Demac speaking on the Royal St. Lucia Police Force being in the process of hiring 200 individuals to boost enforcement capacity of the COVID-19 protocols. And so there is a serious effort at this point in time. We're seeing with the second wave of COVID-19 here in St. Lucia, the clusters of cases that are being registered, there is no room for lackadaisical, complacent behavior on the part of the population. And we hope that everyone is playing their part in ensuring that we can reduce the risk of transmission. And if not, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force is active and is heightening their response to any non-compliance. We did hear from Milton Daisy, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, that they were observing cases of non-compliance in the city, at the bars, and that is the reason why certain interventions in terms of the protocols have had to be made, where the bars have to close by 4 p.m. and it must be a grab-and-go policy throughout, because there is the concern that through the social activity, these social activities are high-risk areas for the transmission of COVID-19, and thus they are really tightening their belts in terms of the enforcement. So the report there from Herma Demac on the hiring, the recruitment of 200 individuals to boost the capacity of enforcement of the COVID-19 protocols. Take a look.
Prime Minister the Honorable Alan Chasney announced that 200 wardens are being recruited to assist the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and the village and city councils with the enforcement of COVID-19 protocols. This is a part of new measures enacted to control the spread of COVID-19 in St. Lucia.
We're looking to recruit approximately 200 new people that will be working with the police and also the village councils and city councils. But we know that enforcement is a critical component to this. We are working with the business communities who are also looking to make resources available, i.e. Specifically with the bars, to help in the enforcement of these protocols.
Some of the areas of concern which require additional enforcement are the adherence to grab-and-go services at local bars, the illegal entry of persons into the country, and the compliance of organizers to the suspension of social gatherings. Prime Minister the Honorable Alan Chasney says while enforcement is a necessity, St. Lucians also need to take responsibility by adhering to the protocols and exercising personal protection.
We have to be disciplined. Persons must wear their face mask, must continue to practice social distancing and all forms of hand sanitization and body hygiene.
The Prime Minister made the announcement during an update to the nation on the 13th of November 2020. From the Government Information Service, I'm Huma Dimark.
That word there from him, Homa Dimak. Thank you, Homa, for that report, giving us that update. We know that there was a release from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. If you go onto their Facebook page, you can see that they are active in their recruitment of these 200 individuals to begin the enforcement, heightened enforcement in the various communities island-wide of the COVID-19 protocols. So go onto the Facebook page and you could see what the requirements are. I believe you must have a clean police record, among other requirements for working in the various communities. We are due for a break. When we come back, we take a look at the flooding situation in St. Lucia. We'll be hearing from Andrew Joyer, the Director of Meteorological Services, on that situation. And also, the upgrade and enhancement of the Derek Walcott Square is nearing completion. Stay with us.
What does coronavirus have in common with love? Both are highly contagious. Spread love, not the virus. Like you, COVID-19 loves a lime. Beach, river, or fed. Coronavirus is like these people who track every lime just to invade. The best way to put off invaders? Cancel the lime. Spread love, not the virus. Keep you and your crew corona-free. Live to lime another day.
Together let us win this war. Said we shall be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
Keeping hands clean is important for good health. However, after a disaster, staying clean is hard to do, especially if there is no pipe-borne water. Simple things you can do to stay clean and remain healthy are: wash your hands with soap and clean water. If these are not available, sanitizers with alcohol are options. Wash your hands many times during the day, before preparing food, eating, caring for a sick person or baby, treating a cut, wound, or sore. Wash hands after using the bathroom, changing diapers, caring for animals, caring for sick or injured persons, after handling garbage. Washing your hands is one of the best ways to prevent illness. For further information, contact the Bureau of Health Education at telephone number 468-5349.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with news from the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports. We know their calendar of activities for the schools, for the communities, has been hampered due to the effects of COVID-19. Not to worry, the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports has rerouted its energies towards helping single mothers. They have partnered with the community branch of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and Massey Stores St. Lucia in this effort. We have Ryan O'Brien with more.
Youth workers attached to the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports embarked on an initiative to provide care packages to young mothers within their areas of work. A total of 25 packages were prepared and presented recently. Director of Youth, Mary Wilfred, said this initiative was a collaboration between Massey Stores, Sergeant Alex Morgan of the Community Relations Branch of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports.
We always desired to respond during this COVID pandemic in meeting young people where they are at, and today the youth workers along with the youth officer, they are preparing packages for young mothers in the community.
Ms. Wilfred said the youth workers sent in information regarding the young persons who needed that kind of assistance.
We believe that young people have been unfavorably disadvantaged during the pandemic, and unemployment and other things like that is a great challenge. So in a little way, we want to show that we care.
Kezia St. Bryce is a youth worker assigned to the Castries area. She lauded the initiative, although admitting it was difficult to make a final choice of recipient.
I believe that this is a great initiative because, as said earlier, COVID has impacted many families, and we've given them such a package, and that could go a long way. How matter small that it may seem, this package can go a long way for a family. For me, it was very difficult because there are many families who are underprivileged at the moment, so selecting one was quite a challenge, but at the end of the day we can only do so much, but once we can create an impact, then that's what counts.
The presentations were made as the Commonwealth recognized young people for the work that they do in communities. From the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, I'm Ryan O'Brien.
Thank you, Ryan, for that report. Very heartwarming to see the various government ministries. It's not only the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports, but we're seeing various ministries taking initiative, especially during this time when their events, their activities that they would have had normally for the year would have been interrupted due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So kudos to the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports for this great initiative, and a special thanks to the community branch of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force and Massey Stores St. Lucia for jumping on board. We know many persons have been displaced due to the effects of this pandemic. We've seen the layoffs, the persons that need to really get some help right now, and any bit of help that can be given is much appreciated. St. Lucia is to continue to experience heavy rainfall as moisture and instability associated with a mid to upper level trough system together with a tropical wave will maintain cloudy conditions. That is the word from the Met Office. Scattered showers and possibly isolated thunderstorms will affect the island and the rest of the Eastern Caribbean during the next 24 hours. A second tropical wave located over the Eastern Tropical Atlantic is also approaching. Brace yourself, St. Lucia. Director of Meteorological Services, Mr. Andre Joyer, says the coming rains present a precarious situation given the flooding experienced over the weekend in Dennery, Micoud, and Labrie. And we heard from the NEMO director, Mrs. Gustav, speaking on the concerns that they have for Dennery in particular, the need for some infrastructural work there to bolster that community against flooding. So we go to our first clip from Mr. Andre Joyer giving us an update on things weather-wise.
The climate projections for the region would have been one where we would expect above normal rainfall. So October, November, December would have been wetter than normal. We are also expecting the hurricane season to be above average.
The 2020 Atlantic hurricane season is nearing an official close come the 30th of November, with 30 named storms having been formed over the course of this period. However, Joyer cautions against the public letting their guard down on that date. We've known that well into the holiday, the Christmas season, we have experienced very devastating weather systems here on island and in this part of the world. So Mr. Joyer is cautioning against persons becoming complacent against that.
Right now, 2020 has broken all records. We are on the 30th named storm, which is Iota. Iota passed over, well, a strong tropical wave passed over us over last weekend and has crossed into the Caribbean Sea and has formed Iota. So most of the systems which pass us as tropical waves eventually become tropical storms or hurricanes. Just to name a few: Zeta, Eta, and Iota. So we still have more tropical waves on its way. And those tropical waves are sometimes enhanced by upper level troughs. So we're asking persons in low-lying and flood-prone areas to be cautious, take the necessary precautions to guard against loss of property and loss of life.
Thank you for that. That was Director of Meteorological Services, Andre Joyer. Now, St. Lucia is not the only island territory in this part of the world that is contending with the weather so far. We have many islands within the CARICOM region who are beginning to assess the damage that has been caused due to the recent heavy rains. We'll have that story coming to you after this break. We also have some bulletin information, including the updates from the authorities that the upgrade and enhancement of the Derek Walcott Square, I know many persons have been anticipating that, is nearing completion. So stay tuned for that and more as we get into our final segment after this break.
We got this. Yeah. I'll fi make it. Ooh. We don't have no other choice but to be strong.
We're gonna make it.
Amen. Oh God.
I am a voice of hope, and I just wanna let you know that I believe in our strength as a people and the promise of a bright tomorrow.
And I want you to believe and trust.
I know God is watching over us, and I believe if we all come together now, everything will be alright. If we only press on,
Strengthen the bond and the ties among this generation.
unite and be one, the fight will be won.
Come on, Caribbean.
Don't worry about the circumstances, don't stress about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life and conquer it. Don't worry about the circumstances, don't stress about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life, 'cause we got this. We got this. We got this. We got this. Caribbean people, we got this.
We got this. We got this. We got this. We got this. We got this. We got this. We got this. I am the strength within, yeah.
I know that we will rise again, and I'm sure we can lift our people.
It's a fight and we must all be shared. I can't believe this day has come.
For our sake, we must keep distance. Everyone looking out for their neighbor. Islands in the Caribbean sun.
It's time to be strong, the battle is on.
And the future of each generation. Every daughter and son united as one.
Sing on, Caribbean.
Don't worry about the circumstances. Don't stress about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life and conquer it. Don't worry about the circumstances.
Must come.
Don't stress about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance
No
at life,
stress.
'cause we got this. We got this. Oh yeah, we got this. We got this. Oh yeah, we got this. We got this. Yeah, we got this. Caribbean people, we got this.
Hear me? Rough it up, the dirty enough, still have to get up. Don't for me now, the giddy and we have to stand up. As virus a rush, we still can't touch, we still can't crush it. We have faith, hope, strength, protection of the Almighty.
And we prayed up, yes, yes, we prayed up. And we stayed up, yes, yes, we stayed up. Head high full of confidence, we not keep bucket, tell them we never gave up. Big up essential workers, rest in peace. We fallen soldiers, Corona can't conquer. We West Indies, one love and unity. Yeah. Don't worry about the circumstances. Don't worry, no. Don't stress about the fears and the madness. Together we will take our chance at life. We got this. We got this. We got this. We got this.
We got this. We got this. Always heartwarming to see that music video and to listen to the very encouraging words in there. We are able to overcome this, and many tragedies have befallen our part of the world before, and we have overcome time and time again. COVID-19 is something we can overcome, but we need to all play our part for this to work. This is something that is a viral situation. It needs all of us. It needs the whole effort to ensure that we can combat COVID-19 here in St. Lucia. A quick shout out to the essential workers, because while we have the Prime Minister stressing, advising, imploring the employers to institute the work from home measures where possible and to have no contact meetings and so on, we have some people who must go to work, who must continue to go take the commute, go to their jobs on a daily basis, and most outstanding are the essential workers, the individuals who give their lives to in the healthcare system, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, all of these aspects to ensure that our population is protected as much as possible. Coming off of the clips from the Director of the Meteorological Services, Mr. Andrew Joye, we do have a report from CARICOM News Time. Michelle Nurse there speaking on the Caribbean islands, assessing the damage that has been caused by the heavy rains resultant flooding over the last few weeks. Take a look.
Heavy rains across the Caribbean in the past weeks have caused extensive flooding in some countries. Heavy rainfall was reported in countries including Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados. On the 4th of November, Guyana's Civil Defense Commission activated its National Emergency Operations Center after 8 to 10 inches of water inundated roads and homes in parts of the country's coastland. The Operations Center immediately examined the possibility of shelters in regions that have been affected by the weather. In Jamaica, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said recent rainfall damage on the island was estimated at close to $2 billion, but from what he has seen and what has been reported, that estimate will certainly rise. The rains caused flooding, landslides, and land slippages and made some roads impassable. Over in Trinidad and Tobago, persistent rains inundated several areas in the south of the country. There are reports that some homes were affected and there was a partial collapse of a roadway and drain wall. The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service had issued an adverse weather alert yellow level on the 2nd of November, warning residents in South Trinidad of heavy showers and flash flooding. Barbados was also drenched by heavy rains over consecutive days as a tropical wave affected the island late last month. There are reports of nearly 10 inches of rain beating down on sections of the island, badly affecting the farming community and forcing the closure of at least one school.
That a report there from Michelle Nurse of CARICOM News Time, just giving us an overview of how the Caribbean islands are assessing the damage that has been caused by the heavy rains and the resultant flooding due to weather systems passing over us. We're now going over to the bulletin information we have for you. The upgrade and enhancement of the Derek Walcott Square is nearing completion. We know that there were many plans that were put forward to the plan that was put forward to the public. Persons are very excited to see how it is panning out. We still have the boards that are up around the square with work ongoing. This project, it moved into its first phase last month, is being funded by the World Bank under the OECS Regional Tourism Competitiveness Project. The Derek Walcott Square upgrade is expected to reshape the city as a main recreation area accessible to all members of the public. And so far, the perimeter walls have been demolished, park benches have been resprayed, the planters have been repainted, and the landscaping and beautification works are being done. The temporary board fence is expected to be taken down within 2 weeks. And I'd imagine that is in time for the holiday season, well ahead of the scheduled project completion time, quite commendable as well. The second phase of the project will see the placing of monuments at key locations for unobstructed viewing and the creation of a clear green space to facilitate performances and picnics. It will also include the relocation of the existing fountain, allowances for additional seating and diverse vending, and the strategic placement of a bust of Sir Derek Walcott to greet visitors to the square. So these are all of the things that you can expect when we have the unveiling of the upgraded and enhanced Derek Walcott Square. In more bulletin news, we have the Embassy of the United States of America informing the government of St. Lucia that it has resumed services for issuance of routine tourist, student, and business visas in the B1, B2 category at the U.S. Embassy Consular section in Barbados as of November 16th, November 2020, with the next available open appointment starting on 1st December 2020. Appointments will only be available for applicants who reside within the embassy's consular district that encompasses St. Lucia, countries within the territories of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, and the French and United Kingdom jurisdictions in the Eastern Caribbean. Applicants residing outside of Barbados who wish to schedule an in-person interview must strictly adhere to all immigration restrictions imposed by the government of Barbados and are expected to strictly adhere to Barbadian Ministry of Health protocols. A visa appointment at the U.S. Embassy does not exempt applicants from required quarantine or isolation stipulations. All applicants must wear facial covering while inside the embassy and adhere to posted instructions about health safety, including social distancing and the application of hand sanitizer. Any applicant experiencing flu-like symptoms, including fever, should not appear for the scheduled interview. United States entry bans from designated global hotspots of COVID-19 remain in effect. Therefore, the overwhelming majority of travelers from the United Kingdom, Ireland, the European Union, that is the Schengen zone, Brazil, China, and Iran, even with a valid non-immigrant visa, will not be permitted to enter the United States if one has been to any one of the listed geographical zones within the last 14 days. So that word there from the Embassy of the United States of America informing the government of St. Lucia that it has resumed services for issuance of routine tourist, student, and business visas in the B1, B2 category at the U.S. Embassy Consular section in Barbados as of Monday, 16th November 2020. Keep in mind that if you are to travel for interview for the visa application process, you must be in adherence to the protocols as instituted by the government of Barbados, as well as the government, the Ministry of Health in Barbados as well. So that update on U.S. visa applications. And we also have an update, a reminder coming from the Department of Economic Development, Transport and Civil Aviation, a notice on services available by the Transport Division, especially in light of the COVID-19. I'm just going to read verbatim. In keeping with the need to observe social distancing measures to combat the spread of COVID-19, the Division of Transport recommends that the general public continues safe practices as recommended by the Chief Medical Officer. The Division of Transport also reminds the general public that processing of available online services can be made using the digital system to reduce the traffic flow at the division. The Division of Transport urges the public to log on to the DigiGov website for available online services at www.digigov, that is digigov.govt.lc. These services can be transacted 24/7. The Transport Division can be contacted via email address transport@govt.lc. One of their representatives will be in touch with you as soon as possible. And just to close up, we appreciate your understanding and support of ongoing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. That update there from the Department of Transport, encouraging persons to make use of the DigiGov platform, digigov.govt.lc, to make their transactions. You need to have your license renewed. You can do so quite easily on that platform. Just ensure once you have your debit information, you can include it there to make your payment as well. and it will make for a very convenient service when you do so. So please take note of that. If you need to renew your license or any other business that you have at the department, the Division of Transport, you can do so online, and it saves you a trip. So we're wrapping up for the morning. I'd like to thank you so much for watching, ensuring that you get the latest updates from the government of St. Lucia right here on NTN, your official source. The reported critical COVID-19 patient has recovered amid increasing cases, and that individual we heard from the CMO has been transferred to the OKEU for continued care as of Monday, 16th November. That is wonderful news. And we have an increase in cases, 5 more cases registered of COVID-19 here on island. The tally is now at 178. And we continue to encourage persons to adhere to the infection prevention guidelines, adhere to the protocols in your going out and your coming in. We need to get a clamp down on this COVID-19 situation, especially as we've been updated to clusters of cases. This is very concerning as we are now in the second wave of COVID-19. The effort now is to really reduce on that. Going over the protocols, businesses and all commercial operations must cease at 9 p.m. daily. And also we have the effort on the part of the authorities to further reduce any social activity by having bars closed at 4 p.m., any unnecessary social activity by having bars closed at 4 p.m., and it being strictly a grab-and-go policy for any establishment that sells alcohol. So you cannot gather either inside or outside of these establishments with your friends or with colleagues having a drink. This is not the time for that. It's the time to go straight home and enjoy your alcohol there. Also, we have the restaurants, all food establishments, takeaway services only, dining experiences are not allowed at this time. Again, the effort is to reduce the risk of transmission, and these locations have been identified as high-risk areas at this time, and so the effort is to get a clamp down on that. The church services, also religious rites, weddings, funerals, baptism, christenings, all of these activities are restricted to 25 persons only. And celebrations of these religious rites of weddings and wakes, wedding celebrations, wakes, funeral receptions, and what have you, these celebrations are not allowed at this time. No sporting activity is allowed at all. And before it was no contact sports allowed, but right now no sporting activities is allowed, and that includes the gym. Gyms here on island are not allowed to operate or to accommodate anybody at this time. So please take note of these protocols. They have been put in place to ensure that when there is the review in the next week, that they could see that there has been a reduction, or the rate or the trend in terms of the COVID-19 cases has been reduced. Hopefully, our fingers are all crossed. So just to go over the other stories for the morning, the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports joins forces to assist young single mothers. We saw from that report there with Ryan O'Brien, the rerouting of the efforts of the Ministry of Youth Development and Sports to help individuals who are in need, particularly at this time. And I know that even prior to COVID, these youth workers, the youth and sports officers within the ministry had been working assiduously in the communities, and that work has just been a natural transition in terms of the social aspect. And finally, St. Lucia to continue to experience heavy rains from the passage of tropical waves. Keep safe, St. Lucia. Ensure that you put your best foot forward in this effort. We're confronted with COVID-19, with the dengue fever, 888 cases, as last updated by the Ministry of Health. And also we have the Atlantic hurricane season. The Director of the Met Services, Andrew Joyeux, advising that we not get complacent when the official end of the Atlantic hurricane season hits us on the 30th of November. We need to be vigilant. We remember the Christmas trough. So well out of the Atlantic hurricane season, we can have weather systems that are potentially devastating. So we need to be prepared as much as we can All right. So I'd like to thank you so much for watching and listening to the latest updates coming from the government of St. Lucia. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off for now, but I encourage you to stay tuned to NTN for all of the latest updates. You never know, we may have an update to the nation coming to you live on air, and it's very important that you keep abreast of what's happening, especially in these times. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Kids at home who are learning at home today, put your best foot forward. Parents, everyone who's working from home, we do hope that you are just as productive at home as you are in office. Yeah, let's show ourselves approved. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.